Welcome back, everybody. The Pete and Steve Show, your local take on local news. This is episode 152, and we are glad you're here.
Yes, we are, Peter.
My beautiful co-host with me today, Steve Fredland.
Gorgeous.
And we're going to be talking about the news today. We've got a couple stories that are kind of interesting. And so we're just going to kind of see where this goes. We want to cover the news, and we want to kind of incorporate, what we're thinking about. So we hope you like it.
Yeah, I mean, we got the local news out of the local paper, the Chisago County Star, and then we got the local news out of you and my life, right?
Yeah, this is like extreme local.
Extreme local. That's right. It's up close and personal local. Yeah. Maybe loco. I don't know which it is.
Right. Well, the first story is we've got a couple of gals going to the state rodeo.
Oh, it's nationals, dude.
Oh, national, yeah.
Yeah, national. This is beyond state. This is a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's out in Wyoming. So the two. Well, why don't you want to go ahead?
Well, sure. I mean, if you're on video, you can probably see that. Pete, can you see that I'm sharing the screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so yeah, Emma Pankan and Tori Skiba. And I actually have a connection with Tori. The Skibas live out near us, and actually her mom is part of a business networking group that I'm a part of. So I have a little bit of a connection, but this is super cool. You know, I'm a guy that I love people who have passion. And there's all these niche things. I mean, I'm a poker guy, and you talk about all these niche things like who plays poker, whatever. But these gals are big into rodeo. And and they made it to nationals. So July 14th to 20th, which is coming up here real quick, they're going to be out, like you said, in Wyoming doing goat tying. Mm-hmm. So they're going to tie goats.
And I didn't know anything about this. I mean, I've seen it like at the state fair, but I didn't understand the rules or much about it, because they kind of come bolting out of the gate on their horse, and there's a goat in the middle of the ring.
Yep.
And they have to get off their horse and tie a rope around the legs of the goat.
Yeah, it's super impressive. I've watched it before. I've seen it in years past going up, and it's super impressive. I mean, it's part of me sort of feels bad for the goat, which I do. I do. I think it's kind of rough, but the athleticism that it takes to do that, to balance yourself on the horse, to steer the horse, direct the horse, guide the horse, jump off the horse at the right time, grab the goat in the right way, flip the goat over, tie the stuff. I mean, it's a pretty impressive deal.
Yeah, well, and the biggest thing to me would be the relationship between the rider and the horse.
Yeah.
There's some chemistry and that they talk about in the article a little bit.
Yeah.
That is really important for things to go well. And so it's not, a lot of times they just make it look so easy, but it's not easy. There's a lot of things going into that.
Right. Oh, for sure. And like the last year, the record was 6.65 seconds. Like, that's really fast. And if you watch it, you'd be like, what? How is that even possible? Like, it seems like I can't even get the horse to take a step in 6.65 seconds. But no, it's super cool for these guys, and it's super competitive. They said, I forget what the number was, like 1,300 people going out there. 1,650 contestants from 43 states, 5 Canadian provinces, Mexico and Australia. It's the world's largest rodeo, and it's cool because they can win cash, but they can also win scholarships. And one of the stories that I really thought was really kind of cool in here was the young Skiba, who actually qualified for nationals when she was a freshman, or at least in her first year. But there was somebody who was like a senior that year who didn't qualify. But if the Skiba gal didn't go, the senior could go. And so she turned down the spot to go to nationals. And to me, that just, I mean, it screams of her, I guess her, I'm not going to say integrity, because it's not integrity. It's something just sort of graciousness, but just maybe the unification, the unifiedness of the sport, saying we're kind of in this thing together. And big picture, I really want you to have a chance to experience nationals. I should have other opportunities. I just think it was a kind of a cool thing that she did.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's really cool. And something that you mentioned earlier about the passion, you're right. It's just so interesting how you see people in these little pockets of areas of interest. And there's just, no matter what area of interest it is, there's people who are just really passionate about it and just amazingly good
Right.
knowledgeable about the topic. And actually, which kind of brings me to a segue. You just got back from Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Where you were playing poker. Now, when people hear that you play poker, they might say, "Oh, he plays with those red, white, and blue chips on Friday nights or something."
Right.
No, but this is a whole new level of poker. This is like pretty serious poker you play, right?
It is. It's its highest levels. Well, not the highest levels, but it's pretty crazy. And to think it was, like 8 years ago where I was playing the red, white, and blue chips at home. I started playing because like me and two of my buddies, Daisy and Mark, said, "Hey, what can we do to connect with all of our teenage kids?" And we started playing poker for 25 cents for the whole night. And now, so like it was like 25 cents or whatever to buy in for the whole night. Us and all of our teenage kids, and I just fell in love with the game. And here, I could have even imagined, whatever, 8 to 10 years later, I just played the World Series of Poker main event, which is a $10,000 buy-in. Like you have to pay $10,000 to play poker. It's crazy. And I had investors and all that sort of stuff. But the reality is, I don't pay $10,000 for a car. I don't know that I ever have. And I'm walking up to the cashier and I have a $10,000 in cash and I'm giving them this envelope of money saying, "I would like to play this poker tournament." It was crazy. But yeah, it's a niche sort of thing. Like a lot of people play poker, but then this is like extreme, but super awesome.
Well, and a few years ago, you have every once in a while you host little tournaments, kind of just for fun tournaments at your house.
Yeah.
And a few years ago, I said, "Oh yeah, I'd like to show up for that," and it was a $10 buy-in or something, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, this will be sort of fun." Well, I lost my $10 in like 5 minutes. And I realized pretty quickly that I'm out of my depth here. This is a whole new level of poker. I mean, I sort of know like the full house. I sort of know the hands,
Right.
What I'd have questions about some of the hands, but yeah, I just immediately lost that. I think I rebought and then immediately lost that. And I was done. I'm like, I hate poker.
Some of that's just luck too, but yeah, no, I think especially early on, then when I started doing those home games, it was such a diversity of people that at different levels of the game. People like yourself that rarely played, some people that never played. They actually had kind of the thing in front of them and tell them what beat what and stuff. And then some people that have been playing for many, many years. So it's kind of interesting to have that big diversity of people. Now it's more and more move toward people that are pretty experienced that I play with. Even though I do have. I play with my college buddies. Actually, on Saturday, we're getting together. We get together, 3-4 times a year. We play for 10 cent, 20 cent blinds, and it's just a fun game. Clearly there's different experience levels, but it's just much more fun. But yeah, no, it's very interesting to see how it's moved from that $10 home game to where we're at now. And I mean, I host a poker podcast. I've talked to the best players in the world. I played with one of the world champions at this table. It's just kind of a surreal ride. And that's kind of how I do things. When I get into things, it's like either I lose interest or it's like, let's go whole hog. And I've just fallen in love with poker. So yeah, another niche thing. It's like kind of like goat tying. People that do it are like, "Oh my gosh, it's the best thing ever." Like to have the adrenaline rush of that clock ticking down and the horse jumping out of the cage and knowing I just timed my leap perfectly to the goat and I just nailed it. And I got the rope out, and I mean, if you're not doing it, you're kind of like, what? But if you're in it, I can totally imagine that feeling, that rush of whatever, and the disappointment of the goat getting away or slipping up on the horse, and that's that's that competitive nature of you just don't know this clock is going to beat down, and you don't know if you're going to have the ride of your life or if you're going to absolutely suck. And that's how I feel like going into a poker tournament. Like I don't know. Like, am I going to be one of the final 9 people trying to win the $10 million prize? Or am I going to be the first guy out? Like, I have no idea. And there's sort of an adrenaline rush that comes with that.
Yeah, it's so true. There's just factors that you don't have control over. And it reminds me of, there was a guy from my church who competed on the American Ninja Warrior TV show.
Oh, yeah.
He got invited to and he didn't actually appear on TV, but I was watching the show because I wanted to see if he was going to be on there. Well, there was this other guy who had won 7 years in a row, and this guy was just an athlete, just perfect, body size and shape for this type of competition, kind of lean, and his forearms were just huge. I mean, they were about as big as his bicep because so much of it is upper body strength. Well, anyway, they were hyping this guy up, and he came through, made it through the first obstacle, and then flubbed it on a balancing one.
Oh.
So he was just out then.
Wow.
And he was like the favorite to win the whole thing, and it was just, kind of dumb luck.
One bad day. It reminds me of like what Stacy Nelson, the pole vaulting coach who we had on a couple of weeks ago, was talking about. There's a gal who she was like vaulting 2 feet above everybody else all year in the state, and she has one bad day, doesn't make height, and all of a sudden she's out. Like, you just don't know what's going to happen. That's the beauty and the pain of competitive sports or competitive anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that guy's devastated. I'm sure he has regret, and I'm sure his rest of his life he's going to be wondering, what if I had been able to balance? What if my massive forearms hadn't gotten me off kilter?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so how did you do in the tournament? Are you comfortable talking about it?
Yeah, no, I can. I can talk for hours on it. So if you're interested in talking more about it, get a hold of me, because I love talking poker and strategy and all those things. I ended up going out there 2 times. So I went out there once for 2 years ago. I went out there for the first time ever. Never been to Vegas. Went out there, loved it. Played for like a week or so. So I did that again this week. Had like 7 guys go out there for 9 days. Stayed in the condo. It was just so much fun. Really great results. I played a total of 21 tournaments, and I cashed in 8 of them, which is really a high percentage, because normally it's like 15% that people cash in. So it did great. Played one tournament that was $1,000 buy-in, and it was like 3,500 people to start the thing, and I made it all the way to 76th. So I got like a $5,000 payday, but like the winner got like 420,000. So I was like, I was just on the cusp, like, here we go, So I had a few of those, but great results. And then I came back, and a bunch of people started coming out of the woodwork and said, hey, if you want to play the main event, the $10,000, I'll back you in that thing. I'll invest in you. So, because I'm not going to pay that much money. And I had no intention of playing that maybe for another 5 years. And all of a sudden there's just this groundswell of support. And so we talked to Tracy, we were about like, I don't really want to take another trip out to Vegas, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, ended up doing it, ended up going out there. Played in the main event. I did bust on day 1, just super unlucky. The worst thing in poker is when people come up to you and tell you bad beat stories, like, oh, you won't believe this bad beat, whatever. But I had an absolutely horrific, like 20-minute run about 5 hours into the tournament. For those of you who are poker people, I flopped top set with 7s. I got flushed on the river. And then about 3 hands later, I got 1 outed, and 2 hands later, I got 1 outed again, meaning there's only 1 card left in the deck that I could lose out of the 35 or so that were left in the deck. Only 1 card I could lose with, and it happened. I had pocket aces. The other guy had pocket kings. Somebody said they folded a king. So only 1 king, that's only a king on the last card, would do me in, and it did. And then another spot, I had top 2 pair. Another guy had other 2 pair. Only 1 card left because somebody folded 1. So it's like I was a 98% favorite twice in a row and lost, and that's how I busted the main. So I was physically sick for like 3 hours. I was just sick. I did a Facebook Live thing to give people an update. And I was like, oh my gosh, I watched it later. Like, oh, you look really rough, dude. Because it's just such an emotional investment. And it's the tournament of the year. It's like everybody comes from around the world to play this tournament. 9,000 people putting up 10 grand each. So it's it was a real bummer. But about 3-4 hours later, I was actually fine. And I've been fine ever since.
Wow. Yeah, and one of the questions about poker I always have is, dang it. That sucks. Let me just say that up front.
It does, yeah.
So bad. But questions about poker is, like, how much of it, there's obviously an element of luck, but the strategy is a big piece of it. And so is it like, and then of course the intellectual heft. You need to have, bandwidth, intellectual to kind of process quickly and calculate probabilities. But of those 3, and I think I've asked you this before, but of those 3, what are the percentages, would you say, of how much of it is luck, knowing the game, and then just kind of your intellectual bandwidth, skills?
I think the luck and skill, I'd say the way that I characterize it is, for any given hand, like that 1 card coming, it's all luck. Like, you put yourself in the situation, let's say, you have ace king, I have pocket tens, we get it all in. That's just completely luck what's going to happen. We're about 50-50 to win. That's completely luck. Over the course of a tournament, I would say in any individual tournament might be like 70 to 80% luck, 20 to 30% skill. But then over the course of all of the times that you play, I'd say that's where the skill edge really comes out. People that are less skilled, less experienced, they're going to be losing players over the long run. And people that are more skilled are going to be, because it's really a game of decisions. It's what's the right decision in this moment. And I could make the right decision. Like, I feel like I made the right decisions, but I got unlucky. Right. And so, but if I'm consistently making the right decision, if I'm consistently getting my money in as a favorite, over the long run, I am going to be a successful player, which I've been. And the top players are, obviously even far, far greater than I've done. So to me, it's sort of, it's almost like a football game too. If you're into football, like, you don't know who's going to fumble 2 times, who's going to get a tip ball that they intercept. There's a luck factor, but over the long run, the best teams are going to have the best records.
Yeah.
So that's how I view it. And I think it's the luck and the skill. And I mean, the mental heft is part of the skill, but people play different ways. Some people are very mathematical. Some people aren't at all. I think the third piece of the equation, I mean, it's strategy, it's skill, but I think kind of emotional stability, I guess, is part of it. It's amazing how many people will lose a hand that they should have won, and they'll either get really angry or they'll just start playing really poorly. They go on tilt, they call it in the poker world. So I think being able to emotionally handle the roller coaster ride, especially of tournament poker, because there's just so many ups and downs. Yes. If you're not emotionally able to handle that, you're going to have a tough go of it.
Wow. Yeah, that's true. That meant that emotional toughness. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good word.
Of so many things, like, sports and everything else. I mean, it can, because it's so discouraging to lose. And another thing that's kind of interesting is the, like, humans, like, if comparing a good and a bad thing, people would like good thing or hate bad things worse than they like good things.
Yeah,
I'm not saying very well.
Well, no, there's been like a psychological study that I've read about, like remembering things. Like, you remember bad things way more than you remember good things. It's actually a very physiological, psychological thing. They say, like, negative experiences are like what sticks Velcro, and positive things are like Teflon. And it's the same thing at the table. Like in poker, people say all the time, I always lose with ace king. I always lose with ace king. And I'm like, you don't always lose. No, I literally always lose with ace king. And so I've done this with people. I said, okay, that I play with together regularly. I said, okay, whenever I'm at your table, I'm going to keep track of when you have ace king. And he's like 50-50 with it. But I always, and it's not you, George. If you're listening, George, I'm not talking about you, because I know he has a trouble with ace king too. But I think you just always remember, like, I always get sucked out on, they always hit the card. I mean, that's just not true. Mm-hmm. But that's what you remember. So maybe that's kind of what your point there too is. It's just those negative things we feel much more deeply than the positive things I think we feel entitled to. Like, oh yeah, I deserve to win that pot. You know?
Yeah, it's like an asymmetric thing. So
it is.
I wish I could remember the study better, but it's something like people would rather, like, given a choice of losing $5 or winning $10, people would. Yeah. What am I trying to say there? Like they would rather win the $10. Oh, wait,
emotionally, it's a bigger impact emotionally on the negative side, losing $5 than it is.
Rather not win $10 or lose, have a chance to lose. And then they're a lot less likely to be in a situation where they could lose versus could win.
And that's why I think gratitude is so important when those good things happen, poker tournament or otherwise. When those good things happen, they say in that study, they said what you really need to do is take, every time something good happens in your life, take like 7 seconds and just let it soak in. Or maybe it was 15 seconds. I don't remember what it was, but like, if you get a good medical report, or if you win the $10, like you're saying, pause on that and just let that soak in, because you're not going to. You're just going to absorb that and move on to the next thing. Because, I deserve to have a good medical report. versus, when you have the negative side, of course, that's a really tough thing. So I think that's the key, is just to really absorb those positive things, because you need to be intentional about it. Yeah. And so I think in the poker world, maybe in life too, in general, this is where personality comes in. So I'm a pretty logical person. I mean, I can be emotional, but, I approach things pretty logically. Like if I'm an 80% favorite to win, a lot of people think they should always win that. I think, no, I should be losing that 1 out of 5 times. Like if I'm not losing that 1 out of 5 times, something's wrong in the universe. So, so I think that's the difference there. Cause I'm a math statistical guy. So I can just say, yeah, if I'm a 98% favorite, I should lose that 2% of the time. This isn't, blowing up the universe. Like some people think it's an absolute, universe blown sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, so when you get hands, I mean, are you literally calculating the odds of things on the fly, or do you kind of have a general idea of, what cards are left in the deck or things like that?
Yeah. I don't do as much math as I used to, but because now I think some of it becomes sort of innate. I guess you kind of know. I mean, I know what starting hands I want to play that are probably good against what my opponent generally would have in a situation. So like if they raise, I know what hands would be good against those hands that they would raise against in general. But it's not really a math calculation. The math for me comes more into like if somebody makes a big bet and I know that there's 8 cards that'll actually make my hand. Like if I have a straight draw, not to get into all the details, but if I know I can figure out, okay, I have 8 what they call outs, 8 cards that will actually give me the best hand. And that means I have whatever it might mean, 33% chance of actually winning the hand. So there's a 1 in 3 chance I'm going to win. I'll compare that to the size of how much I have to put in versus how much I could win if I do hit that card. And so those are kind of the math things that I do. It's called pot odds. So that's some of that. The rest of it is, there is some more of it. There's probably more than I even realize, but some of that's become second nature as I've done. You kind of study because of the podcast. I talk to these great players. I have this good group of people that we talk about, and we talk about some of the math behind the stuff. And so I learn the principles kind of from the math. And then once I have the principles, I bring that in and I'm just kind of playing the principles rather than the math.
And so, okay, that's interesting that some people are kind of head players and some are heart players, like just kind of the instinct,
I'd say it's head. I said some are head, like I'm prone to be. Some are heart, where it's like you're saying the instinct, and then some are all about it's psychology. It's all about what do we think their opponents have, and are they the kind of person that even if they have a good hand, they're going to fold if I go all in on them. Right. Like it doesn't even matter what I have. It doesn't even matter what I think. I just know that even if they have a good 90% of the time, they're going to fold here if I shove, even if I have nothing. So some people are very psychological in trying to get inside their opponent's brains.
Wow. So who won? Is the tournament over?
They're down to, I think they're down to 35 people right now as we speak. I had a few people, there's like 8 people from Minnesota that made it to the final couple hundred, which is amazing. And then the guy, I stayed with Chris Fox Wallace when I was out there. He was still in it with like 100 and some left. He got really, really deep. And then there was another guy from Minnesota that I know just busted in 50th place or something for like 160 grand. So he did okay. Yeah, but it's still going on. It's a grueling event. Man. Yeah.
Wow.
So hey, one thing I want to chat about quick, or did you have anything else with that deal?
Nope.
Good stuff. I know we're almost out of time, but one thing I wanted to bring up here, I just kind of happened to notice it in the Isanti Chisago County Star, that the latest Hall of Fame inductees for Cambridge-Isanti Blue Jacket inductees for the next Hall of Fame have been announced. And so, it's a who's list, of course. Part of it is because the Hall of Fame was just recent, is a more recent thing, so they're kind of catch up here. But you can see on your...
Can I ask a question about that before we get into the names of getting inducted? Yeah. What is the Hall of Fame? It's just, is there a specific criteria for getting in there, or is it just...
they do a voting thing. Yeah, I'm not super close to, but I know they do, like, they take nominations and they do a vote. Okay. They have a Hall of Fame committee. So Todd Schmaker, that might be a name that you recognize. He kind of leads it. So they do have a Hall of Fame committee, generally 1 or 2 meetings a year, it says, and there's nomination forms. So you can go to www.c-ischools.org, click on departments, click on Blue Jacket Hall of Fame, and that's where you can nominate somebody for the Hall of Fame. And then the committee, it looks like they meet once or twice a year to decide who's in. And I don't know. I don't know if it's any kind of a voting thing. I don't know if they have a certain number that they want to get in all the time. I don't know all of the bylaws there, but you can get a hold of Todd Schmaker, Schmaker at c-ischools.org. He can answer any questions you have there too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the article is also in the paper. So if you didn't catch that email address, just check in there. So.
Yeah, sorry, that was pretty quick. But yeah, so you can see it online right here if you're watching the video. Otherwise, go to the paper or shoot us an email. I mean, I'm happy to answer that question for you too. But yeah, so the 2019 inductees, some very familiar names. So Rob Eastland for football from years ago, back in the 1910s, 1920s, right, Rob? Not quite that long ago. Richard G. Hardy for the arts. You recognize that name from the Richard G. Hardy Performing Arts Center. It was named after him. Fantastic investment in kids and music and arts. Neil Jennison for wrestling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Wendy,
he's still at high school. Yeah,
I think he is. Yeah, right. Exactly. That's a name very, very synonymous with wrestling. Wendy Rooney for gymnastics. And Cambridge-Isanti gymnastic team is ridiculous how good it is. And I wish I remember. I know she's been coaching it for a long time, but I think she was also in the program as well.
Yeah, she's married. Rooney is her married name. Stickles is her.
Stickles. Oh, yeah.
Bill's sister. Yeah.
I forgot to put that together. Oh, that's the inside info. So Bill, way to go. There you go. Another plug. That's right. I totally forgot about that. Sean Stone for track and field. And then Janelle Street for basketball.
Wait, Sean Stone. Now that name sounds familiar. Do you know him?
I don't. That's the one name I'm like, I can't place it. I'm not sure what his accomplishments were. I'm sure they were amazing, and I don't know. So I don't know if he was a, pre us in the 80s or a post us in the 80s. I didn't do my research.
Oh, you know what? That is Sean Stone. He was a high jumper. He was a year behind me.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. He was the guy. Actually, he was one of a gal that I dated. It was her brother.
Oh, well, yeah. You should know that then.
Yeah, and we worked together at Morphor, and he won state I think almost all 4 years.
No way.
And I think he's got the state record in high jump at 7 feet 2 inches.
Well, look at you. You got all the details.
You know what? I'm just so impressed by this guy. And
that's ridiculous. 7 feet 2 inches.
Yeah. Taller than him. Taller than he is.
That's ridiculous. He's got fake shoes on or something. Wow, that's impressive. Yeah, that was the name. I didn't recognize that name at all.
Okay.
Good info. Janelle Street for basketball, and she, at least at the time, I believe, became the all-time leading scorer in girls basketball in the state. Or at minimum, I think she passed the 2,000 point mark, which is ridiculous. So she was just an unbelievable basketball player. I think within the last 10 years or so, more recent. Todd Treichel, the name Treichel, of course, synonymous with Cambridge football. And then,
tell me more about that. So I know Tom Treichel, but I don't know Todd.
Oh, it's risky for me to go through all of the different Treichels, and because I'm going to mess it up.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to mess it up. But no, that I know. I don't know what he played or what position, but I know the Treichels. They were all from that generation on to our generation, or to the next generation. All played football, or a lot of them played football. So I don't want to take the risk of being wrong on that.
Okay.
And I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if there's other Treichels that are already in the Hall of Fame. They didn't list the whole thing. It'd be interesting to see what's the whole list. And then the final one was the third team that gets in, the 1987 State Class A football championship team. So that was back in our heyday there.
Yeah.
So that was
awesome. I was younger. So you graduated 89.
Well, I was the manager on that team now. So I don't know if I'll get an invitation. I doubt it. But yeah, I was a manager in the 87, 88 years of the championship team.
Well,
yeah. So I carried the water. I tried to, I brought the frozen water back onto the bus in Cloquet to try to get it warmed up, and No, so that was those are right in my heyday years. That was my that would have been my junior year, and then the '88 team was my senior year.
Okay.
So
that
just
was crazy,
unbelievable teams.
And those guys were almost celebrities back in the day.
Oh man, for sure.
Because I was like, I don't know, maybe 7th or 8th grade, but I remember seeing those guys around town, and I'm like, oh man.
Oh yeah.
And so
Cambridge football for sure back in that day. So the Oxlip connection, the three running backs. Let's see if I can remember: John Nystrom, Jeremy Wicht, and Casey Cunningham. Like we're all from Oxlip, and they're like the three running backs of the team, and they like each had 1,000 yards that year. I remember like we'd be predicting like how many plays until Cambridge scored. Three plays, 4. I mean, it was unbelievable. They'd win games like crazy. And the architect of those teams, who was the winningest football coach in the state of Minnesota history. I don't know if he still has the record. Was George Larson, and George is somebody I actually play poker with. He plays poker a bit at Running Aces, so occasionally we're at the same table and get a chance to. I don't tell him the stories about like when he'd borrow us managers his car to go get stuff. You know, I don't tell him the stories about where we went and stuff. That the car would come back with a little mud on it, and like some of the players would be like, "Dude, where did you go?" Like, yeah. So, but no, the Mercury Lynx. He had a Mercury Lynx wagon. But anyway, so I digress. But it was kind of fun just to, I don't remember all the details of all of these people and all these names, but it was kind of fun to see those, and like, yeah, those are names in Cambridge sporting lore for sure.
Well, and they do have the people's names on plaques down on the Harding, basically the PAC, the Performing Arts Center in high school. And so, yeah, I guess these guys will get plaques too, and they'll go right up there. But it's pretty fun and interesting to go and read those. Like sometimes when I'm at play or something, in intermission I'll go and read those. And yeah, it's the names you kind of recognize, like Miss Tureen. Did you ever have?
Oh yeah, Lois Tureen, sure. Yeah.
She's on there, and I can't remember what for exactly, but yeah, it's super fun to read that stuff.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, very cool, fun history thing. So that's kind of all I had pulled out of the Isanti Chisago County Star for this week. But there's a lot of good stuff in there, but we just can't talk about it all.
Yeah. Well, and we'd be a little remiss if we didn't just mention the Isanti County Rodeo.
Oh yes,
I mean that's a huge thing that the Isanti firemen put on, and I would actually be interested in knowing some of the history behind that. I didn't get a chance to look at it, but they started, I assume, just pretty small, and now it's a pretty. I mean, I don't know. Is it biggest in the state? I don't know for sure, but
I don't know, but it's big, and yeah, there's a great article that Bill wrote called "Worth 1,000 Words." And it's talking about all of the stuff we have coming up, including, like you mentioned, the rodeo. So the parade we're recording this on Friday, July 12th. The parade was yesterday, and then just kind of leading into all of these things that are coming up. So that's certainly worth checking out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, because you got the Isanti Rodeo and Jubilee Days, and then you've got the Chisago County Fair, July 18th to 21st, and then you've got the Isanti County Fair on the 24th to the 28th, and all kinds of activities in between there. So a lot of great opportunity for community connection.
Yep, absolutely.
Hey, look at there. There's our advertisement.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, check out the Isanti County Star, or the Chisago.
Isanti Chisago County Star.
Yeah.
But in online, I think if you just go to countystar.com, I think it'll automatically feed you to the Isanti-ChisagoCountyStar.com.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's all we've got. So
we didn't get a chance to talk about your stuff, though, Pete. Like, there's a couple things. Do you want to at least give us the speeding ticket? And I heard you have something going on next week.
That was supposed to be on the down low, man.
Oh, wait, what? Which part?
I did get a speeding ticket yesterday, and but the biggest thing is I'm getting married.
Woo!
About a week and 1 day. So I'm super excited, but super overwhelmed with everything that has to get done. And I'm fortunate because LeAnn is actually really good at a lot of that stuff. And so she's, overwhelmed, but it kind of leaks over into me feeling overwhelmed too.
Yeah. Yeah. You look like you already have your wedding haircut though.
Well, no, this is the prelim.
Really? There's another. You need more of that cut? That looks pretty good to me.
For this haircut is so that I can get. I don't have those weird tan lines. You know, when you get a tan and you get a haircut, and it looks white around your ears and.
Or sure, yeah.
I got this prelim. I'm going to be out in the sun a little bit and hopefully get a tan, and then get my final.
Is that actually a strategic thing? Are you like getting your haircut and then going to be out in the sun so you get a little more color? Is that a strategic wedding planning thing?
Yeah.
Oh, Pete. Oh, my God. I can't wait for the wedding to be over for you. Sorry, no offense, LeAnn, but come on, man. We don't need to get preliminary haircuts and then get out in the sun to get darker and then get another haircut. Come on. But I guess if that's all you're being asked to do, that's not too bad.
Well, it was kind of funny because like a week ago, I said, okay, we got to get a handle on this because there's just so much going on. Let's each sit down and write a to-do list, and then we'll, kind of compare and contrast and then combine them, and then that will be our working list for the next, couple of weeks. So she's like, okay, yeah, good idea. So we sat down and I started writing, and then we kind of got done, and I said, okay, here's my list I got, and I had like 2 things on there. And then she pulls out her list, and it's a page and a half.
Oh. So were you able to just keep your 2 things, or did you end up getting some of those other things?
Well, one of my things she already had on her list.
Nice.
And then, so she's been doing some delegating, and that's sort of working.
So is your to-do list basically just get your pre-haircut, get out in the sun, and get another haircut? Is that like your wedding preparation list?
That's basically it. And I have to do the slideshow. So.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and I should say this. I'm responsible for the candy bar.
The candy bar. I thought I heard rumblings. I can't remember, though.
No, it's so like we're having a coffee bar.
Yeah.
You can table set up with coffee. And then there's going to be a table set up with candy. And since I'm kind of a candy aficionado.
You are. Yes, sir.
I'm responsible for that. So like yesterday I ordered $500 worth of candy from Amazon. So
you did have some big responsibilities.
I did, yeah.
Even though she's probably secretly hoping it doesn't work out. No, that's pretty fun. I love that. That's a fun add to a wedding.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's her idea too, and I mean, I thought it was genius. I didn't even know these things existed, and then she brought it up, and I'm like, oh yeah, that would be perfect.
That's fun, super fun. Well, good luck the rest of the week. If you need anything, let me know. But man, it's exciting. Mm-hmm. 8 days.
I know. I am excited, and it's going to be fantastic. It's just a little stressed at the moment. So
sure, that's natural.
Yeah.
All right. Well, should we sign off there?
Yeah. Let's sign it off, and we will see you all next week.
Adios.